is what it is, isn't it, really?
It's all the editing that comes into it, it's a pain.
There's quite a bit of work involved, isn't there?
Yeah. Just make sure you... I'll get you there, so I've got a pretty look of it. On there.
Have you got the... that's not square, does that matter?
No, that's more or less good to me anyway, so it's like just covering both. The angle on them, because they're on a wide angle on them, will cover us both.
Right, okay.
Right, so we'll start off. Let's get
Right, you've got a bit of an introduction.
Yeah, I'm going to do that first. Get my secret sheet out, let's just say. Philip Youles.
Oh, pleased to meet you. Yeah, thank you for coming in. Yeah,
thank you very much for letting me do this. Really looking forward to it. So we've got this little secret
You're going to test me. You're going to test me, aren't you?
Well, this is going to be like a Christmas carol.
Is it?
Do you remember the Christmas? You're not Scrooge though.
Oh, right.
So
it's best time for everything.
I'm the ghost of Birchwood Biker. So
right.
I'm going to take you into the past and then we're going to move forward.
Right.
We hope, and I hope my questions work and you like them.
Well, we'll see what we can, I'm sure we can give you an answer. I know you were discussing this in the shop and I said, yeah, it'll be fine, I don't mind doing it. But I've no idea what you're going to ask me.
No, exactly. I've only met you once and we'll get to it at the end.
Okay. It's a big list of questions.
I tell you what, when I sat down, I had to think about it and I progressively went through like a time map of what I need. So we're going to start 40 years this year.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's a long time, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back to
1985, yeah.
Yeah, let's go back to him when he was a young lad. I mean, a young lad. The first time that you actually were introduced to a motorcycle.
Stood at the gate in Rishton, where we lived. We lived in like a bungalow with like a bungalow house. It was like a house with an upstairs. Like a bungalow with an upstairs, if you get what I mean, like a dormer. It wasn't really a dormer, but it had an upstairs.
Yeah.
And there was a drive up the side, and my dad had a matchless G9, which we still have. And he used to go home from work on it, and he used to stand at the end of the drive, sit on his petrol tank, and he used to go up the drive on it, and the garage door was always open, and he used to ride it to garage, and sort of just stop and skid up to the bench that was at the front of the bench, with me sat on the tank holding on to handlebars,
so
and just slide into the bench. Well, we left Rishton when I was 6, so I must have been younger than 6, probably 4 or 5, something like that.
Because the one photo you actually showed me, and now people, it's like, I'm the same, I mean, people say I was knee height, I was knee height when I was first on the bike. You was like literally wheel height.
Yeah, literally, yeah. And there was always a motorbike at home.
Yeah.
And Dad always had a bike, so that's kind of that rubbed off on me really from a very early age. Just loved the sound, smell, and the...
Yeah, because they're distinctive in them days, weren't they?
Very distinctive, yeah, and because he was, I mean...
Oil mixed in the petrol, two-stroke mostly.
Well, he was always into matchless and AJS, so... and still is, I mean, he's still alive, so he's still into them, although he has just given up, he has recently given up riding. It was always there. So, and my granddad was into motorbikes as well, so he got it from grandparents on both sides were into motorbikes. My granddad on my mum's side was a dispatch rider during the Second World War. So he worked for the Auxiliary Fire Service, so he was running the messages around when the bombs were dropping in Coventry and the like. So
what bikes did they like then?
350 matchlesses they had.
That's what they had.
And my granddad on the other side, he was on my dad's side. He worked in a motorbike shop, and then Sumner's it was called in Blackpool. They did radios, prams, and motorbikes.
Yeah.
That's what they did in those days.
Now that's the next question I was going to ask you. Was your family involved in the motorcycle industry?
No, they were printers.
Right.
Grandfather was a printer. Well, he went on from being working at Sumner's to working before the war at Vickers doing the payroll. And then, of course, he was probably getting a bit old for the Second World War for front line duties, but it was, I mean, obviously it was in a protected profession then because they were manufacturing aeroplanes, so that was manufacturing Wellington bombers.
Yeah.
And so he managed to evade being sent to the front line, I suppose, through that, and then so he then left that later on and started a printing business. My dad was in printing, so the printers. Really.
So through and through, that's a trade in
so
itself.
it's kind of a different,
Changed a bit that now.
I never really wanted to be a printer, so I just didn't fancy it really. And I probably, if I'm absolutely honest, I probably couldn't have worked with my dad if I'm 100%. I think we get on all right, but you know, a lot of people do and don't. But you know,
my dad's passed now, but I loved it. Yeah, it's like I bought a canal boat with him, and it drove me mad.
I get on with it, but
we love each
it's a different thing, isn't it?
We're different age groups, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we're going on to. You're old enough now to actually get a motorcycle, and it's just before we do this actually, what's the best motorcycle you've ever ridden in your life? I'll have you look wager on this because I think I'm 100% right on it, and I bet it's the same bike I rode.
Depends what you mean by best on it.
But when you really think about it,
but a lot of people have asked this question over the years, and at that point, at that time when you're riding it, it's the best thing. And I don't think I've got one because I've had so many, and I've ridden so much stuff, varieties. I mean, I've ridden Boss Hosses, I've had a supercharged Rocket, I've had sort of little bikes. I remember one of the best bike tours I ever did was on a PC50 around Europe. You know, so I've done so many things on motorbikes that really, I don't think I've got a best motorbike. I think the best motorbike is the best bike for that job at that particular time.
So close your eyes. Go back to the first time you ever sat on a motorbike. Who was with you?
Well, the first time I let the clutch out on a motorbike and rode it myself, I was on the back street when we lived at Simonstone, and my dad had bought a BSA B40, and he took the seat off it so that I could ride it, and I couldn't really touch the floor at that. So I set off on it, and then he ran behind me and caught it, so that I could stop because I couldn't really touch the floor. So that was probably, but I wouldn't say that was a good motorbike. So that was like a bit of a heap of junk, really, if I'm honest. But I have no real fond memories of it.
But if you think about it, that's the seed that starts you right on its journey. Right.
That first, when you open the throttle, and I had a YB100 for a while on the road when I was young. I took a test on a YB100, and that was. I mean, that felt like a rocket ship when I first rode it, but I soon got used to it, you know, and I soon rode.
I think you do on any bike, don't you?
Yeah, and soon
that way inclined.
Yeah.
So we're moving on now. The ghost is moving you forward.
Come on.
So you're into your secondary school. So what secondary school did you go to?
I went to St Wilfrid's in Blackburn part time.
so you got your mark and went home.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I didn't like it. Yeah, I didn't like school as much at all. I just I didn't like school.
Who was your best friend?
At school, I had a good friend. A bit of a clique of us. Probably Tony Ashton was probably very close to me at school. We were good friends at school. Yeah.
Right. Did you wag it to ride bikes?
Sorry?
Wag it to ride bikes?
No, it's wagged it off really. No, we
didn't have one to do.
We did a bit of that probably, but not enough really. We did ride bikes a lot over there was some railway lines near where we lived. Used to go down there, riding all sorts of stuff from Gilera 50s to just all anything that would run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get running. Yeah.
It's
quite enjoyed getting it running, riding it a bit, and then selling it to other kids for a few more quid than I'd paid for it, and then buying something better. So, that was that probably sort of got me into it really.
So that's what's come to.
Probably the initial sort of realising that I could get one running, or buy a Honda 90 that was seized up, get it going, and then sell it, flog it on after. So yeah, so you sort of, that probably was the first.
Who taught you the mechanics?
Well, picked it up watching my dad really. Yeah. Because he was always meddling with stuff.
And university life.
You just make a lot of mistakes, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, you do. You know, you realise that you soon snap a few bolts and make a right ash of it.
Kickstart stands.
Yeah, you make a right ash of it and all that. But you learn bodges, don't you? That way.
Yeah, that's
how to work.
I think that's where the name Bodgins Car comes.
Yeah, well, you learn how to do it, don't you? It's definitely. I always think like the best musicians quite often have taught themselves, haven't they?
I think that's university of life. The university of
it's just doing stuff. Yeah.
That was very much like me. I was terrible at school. You are what you are.
Yeah.
But we're moving on now because you're leaving school. It's your first day of leaving school. Have you ever worked for anyone else?
No, I've never worked for anybody else. Never. So I was buying and selling parts through the sort of, you could use an auto trader, you could, anything under 50 quid was free advert, so you could put stuff in there. Buying and selling parts while I was at school, really. I had bits in our garage, bits in next door's garage. The lady lived next door to us.
How did you actually figure out that you could make that money when you? Because how old was when you first? Can you remember your first trade?
I bought a Jawa 250 off a guy in it was up back street, and I knocked on his door and said, well, I actually bought a YB100 before that, not far from there, and I knocked on this guy's door, or I saw him and I paid 10 quid for it, and the barrel was seized on it, and it was only seized with standing, I think, and I freed it off and got it running, rode it for weeks and weeks and weeks around fields and all sorts of stuff.
Fully legal with insurance.
Totally, absolutely, yeah, no helmet, no nothing. And then I sold it probably 40 quid, something like that, I can't remember now, but it was like quite a lump of, you know, it was quite a good, relatively speaking, quite a good profit really, yeah. And so then I bought a Jawa off this guy. I paid, I think, about 20 quid for that, and that had a knackered big end, and I put a big end in that with my dad. My dad helped me quite a bit with that, sort of doing it, showing me. We did it between us. And
that's it. Was it? Did he even have a manual in them days? Did you buy the manual?
There was a climber manual with it. Yeah, I remember.
Right.
And there was a load of parts as well with this bike. There was enough bits to build. Build another one. And I built that upstairs above his printing works in Accrington on summer holidays. And I can remember starting it. I started it. Come running upstairs because it was an old building.
The noise and the smoke.
Well, the problem was it was vibrating on the floor, and because they were trying to print white stuff under, really clean stuff underneath, and all the dust was coming down, it was creating havoc with somebody's election posters or whatever it was they were printing. I can't remember. So I got in a right load of bother, because I'd ruined all this stuff, you see. So I got in a right load of trouble for that. But that was just, it's one of those things, really. But and I remember. A woman that worked for my dad saying to my mum, because the mum and dad worked together, saying, you don't need to worry about him if he's bright enough to do that. The mum obviously worried, she probably worried sick about it because I'd always be up to no good or whatever, so she'd be worried. I'd probably imagine she'd probably quite worried,
Yeah.
And
but
it was, mums are that, they naturally are, that's how they are. But yeah, we're quite good really. So I kind of worked it out before I'd left school, and I was at school thinking, why are all... I remember going for a careers interview and he said, like, you have a job as a YTS at ROF, probably get you on there, which is Royal Ordnance Factory. And I worked there, stood at the machine doing... I did that. I said, no, I'm just going to carry on selling motorbike parts. And the careers advisor looked at me like, absolutely. Like, what do you mean sell motorbike parts? I said, well, I'm selling them now. I said, and then, I'm making more than 25 quid a week now and I'm still at school. So,
more than the teacher.
So it's like ridiculous, really. Why would I want to go and work for somebody else doing that? It just doesn't make sense. So by the time I came to leave school, I got it lined up. I got a unit lined up to rent in Reed, and I got enough stuff to sort of make it look like a shop, even though it wasn't enough really, but it made it look like a shop. And that was enough. That was it.
Let's go back to them days then. For even rent a unit, none of the public liability.
Oh no. But the landlord, I still know him actually, and proper guy, a really nice guy called Peter Reeves, and he, I rang Reeves and Gill, I rang them up and made an appointment to meet him, and he said like, I can't remember what to say. He said like 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon or something. I said, well, I can't do 3 o'clock, but I can do 4:30. All right, okay, so 4:30 it was. Well, 4:30 was when the school bus got in. So the school bus got in just had, so I went down in my school uniform and said I wanted to rent a unit. And he must have looked at me like, who's this idiot? And anyway, rented he agreed in principle to do it, and then I think he said, well, could probably do to see your dad like and make sure it's all right or something. I can't remember. I ended up going back with my dad that night, and my dad said, well, it's what he wants to do. They were very good, my parents. They sort of backed you up. Yeah, they were very sort of open really, and said, well, if that's what you want to do, I think they thought, well, he'll probably fail, and if he does, he's young enough to recover from it, and which you are, of course, at that age. It's a great time to do it. Really, I think you should work really, really hard when you're young. And I think all this about having a good time and partying is a lot of rubbish. I think you should get your nose down, get some work done, get some fat on your back, and if it doesn't work, what you're doing, you can change it. You've got time to mess about, haven't you? Whereas if you get to sort of 25, 30, and it's getting it old really to start and stuff like that.
I say this, that it's like lots of people going on about rich people, aren't they? I mean, you look at them and say, I know quite a few millionaires, and they don't have to work, but they work more hours than I do, even now. And when they were younger, they worked even longer than that. And I think when you do something you really love and you enjoy, time doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter, I don't think. When
Money's not important.
Yeah, no, I don't. You need an amount to keep it going. But
yeah, your health's important. That's what matters. But,
yeah.
But you don't. When you're young, you've got your health and you've got your energy. You've got the energy to do it, haven't you?
Yeah.
You can work at both ends. You can work 6-7 days a week. You can work 12 hours a day. You don't even feel it, but when you get 50, you feel it. No, you push that. Yeah.
So we move on anyway. This time machine is moving on. You're now selling parts. You're building up, and it's becoming a real business.
Yeah, it moved quite quickly really at first because the breaking bikes was on a bit of a boom really.
Yeah.
And within 3 years, I was registered for VAT, which was like
15%.
It was 11.5 then.
Oh, yeah,
11 and a half it was originally.
Yeah. So who was your first employee? Your first PAE?
Payroll. A guy called debatable really. A guy called Rob Mercer worked for me, but I think Steve Brayne was already working for me at that point. I'm pretty sure it was Steve Brayne.
So these are the first ones that you
so for Rob might have worked a bit like on a Saturday lad sort of basis. I can't remember which one started for that. I'm pretty sure it's Steve.
Yeah, so this is someone that you've got to do a wage slip for.
Yeah, which was cash then, those to pack it, you know. Yeah.
That's it. But they still have PAE, national insurance. So the next thing, you get involved with MZ.
Yeah.
How would you go about that? How?
Well, you had to be. We're in Accrington, so we'd moved from Reed by this stage, and we're in Accrington. What had happened was my father told his printing business at 55. He retired at 55, and he was like sat there thinking, "What do I do?" And he'd seen me renting this unit in a mill, and he thought, "Well, I could buy a mill, which is what it was, and I could split it up into units." And Philip, like, would you rent a unit off us? So basically, he's got a pre-made tenant to start with, which was me, and I got involved with it. I said, "Yeah, I'll help. Yeah, that'll be fine." So I helped him do stuff with it. We kind of came together a bit then, and we sort of, I did quite a lot of work on that for him, with him, and then rented a unit off him. So I moved to Accrington, and to sell, you kind of, you pull the bike into brake and it's crashed, whatever, you pull it to bits. But then there's an odd bike that you think, well, it's a bit too good to break. I can sell that as it is. So you end up like selling it as it is.
So was MZ the dealership? Was it a dealership?
Well, it was a franchise. But what happened was, as the bikes got better, you start needing to sell to someone finance. People have started asking, can I have it on payments? And you can't offer payments at this stage. So you had to have a credit license. Which you just got from the Office of Fair Trade, and paid 50 quid, something like that, was expensive particularly. And then you had to have a franchise. So the only finance companies would deal with you if you had a franchise. So I had to have a franchise to sell used bikes on finance. So I looked at, in Accrington, everything was took. Honda was took, Yamaha was took, Kawasaki was took, Suzuki was took. They were the main ones at the time. BMW was taken. Everything was taken as far as I could see. So I got further down the list to sort of MZ, and I rang the MZ importer. There was a guy called Wilf Green in Sheffield, and he said, I'll send rep round on Monday type of thing, abroad, So this guy comes round called Chaz Bolton, smoking a pipe, in shop, flat cap on, bit of an old boy, a bit of a character, and he says, goes through it all. He says, well, to be an MZ dealer, you have to have 6 bikes. So you have to have 2 ETs F125s, a disc brake and a drum brake. So you have to have 2 ETs and 2 50s, a disc brake and a drum brake, a Simpson 50 off-road and a Simpson 50 on-road. And you've got the franchise then. And it'll be, and it's calculated out, I can't remember, it's about £6,326.33 including that. That's your 6 bikes, that's including the delivery, everything, and that's it with an MZ dealer. No technical training, nothing, just no backup, no spares to buy, no nothing, no sign even to buy for the building, just that was it. And then so I said, yeah, we can do that. Yeah. He said, right, you better write me a check out then. Like. So it's that simple. So wrote a check out. Then he said, right, I'll be half an hour, so I just need to go and terminate the existing dealer. so this is how this works. So he cleared off, and Keith Dixon was the dealer. And I hadn't twigged that he was even a dealer, but he got quite a few franchises of BMW, Honda, Yamaha at the time, anyway, he must have gone down to Keith Dixon's, terminated him, come back up to me, said, yeah, you're a dealer, your check will clear next week, 2 weeks your bikes will be here, and then 2 weeks, lo and behold, 2 weeks down the line, bikes turn up, and that's it, we're dealer, that's it, and kicked off, and then we could do finance, so that was RIGP, which became,
I remember them.
Yeah, well, it's Rally Industries Graduated Payments, that stands for. So that was from Rally Push Bikes.
Right.
And that became Lloyd's eventually, a part of Lloyd's. And that was it. Then we were off, and they showed you how to do the finance, which was all handwritten documents and 3 copies. Press on R. And the APRs were like, an MZ in 1980, sort of 88, 89, the APRs would be like 36.5. It was high, everything. And that wasn't like subprime, that was just everybody was paying that.
And there was no PCP.
There was no PCP, straightforward hire purchase.
Finance then.
Yeah.
There was also no, it was a presumed pick up the phone to find out.
Yeah, to ring up to find out to do everything, and then
send the date.
You do the documents with the customer, and it was a thing. It was all on like log tables, and to work out all the numbers and do it, write it all out. And it's so easy to get it wrong. We put one number in one column that was wrong, and we'd send the document back. Well, you'd given the customer the bike by that stage normally, so you won't get your so you have to get them back in, like come back in and sign this again. So there's some. Real sort of excuse as to why we needed to come in and get them to sign it, and off you go, So it was all good fun.
The other side with that as well, you've now got bikes in. You've now got, because when I was thinking back with the first few bikes I bought new, service and things like that, they never even mentioned it. But I would have thought you'd have had to still have a mechanic.
Yeah, we had to do. With all that. Yeah, we had to do all that, and very quickly worked out that obviously that is the key to it, in getting it right, getting that bit right, and it's and we did get some technical training as time went on. You got a bit more. You went to MZ. They were quite good actually, to be fair. There, they were all right.
People don't realise MZ, and I didn't realise until I read up on it. 2 million bikes by 1983 come off the production line. Turkey was the last place that come off.
Yeah, that's right. The Canini ones. Yeah. They were good bikes. To be fair, they were. I mean, they were reliable and they were well made. And I've still got one now. I've got quite an affinity for them. But they're not rubbish. Like they were utilitarian and they were basic, but they were.
I said to you,
they were good.
I said to you in that first meeting, I said it was a 250 head. I think I can't remember the name of it. But I remember saying the oil seal went on it, but the main thing that had gone, and that was what part I flipped. The diaphragm in the petrol tap went on it.
Right.
Because that used to go quite a lot. But
there was 4 holes in it.
Yeah.
You plug it in. 2 little screws you can pop it out.
I bought that bike for that reason. It's leaking and couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
I could see him sticking grease in it like they used to do in the days.
Yeah, but I mean they are a good bike. I use one a lot, and I've got one at home that's not mint, but it's just an old one really, which we sold now. I've tidied it up, and it's I use it, not too fussed about it. I just use it.
Did you ever have sleepless nights up to that place for that?
Yeah. I mean, because you're on the edge, aren't you? You're pushing. If you're driving a business like that from nothing, you have to take some risks, and you do take some risks, and probably didn't take too many of that. Probably later on more. You forget though, don't you? Because at the time, you get a bill and it's more money than you've got. It doesn't matter how much money you've got. If you get a bill and it's more money than you've got
to pay it.
You've got to pay it. Even if it's 1,000 quid and you've only got 800 quid, it's that 200 quid's too much. So the figures, the numbers are irrelevant really. It's just the concept is what it's at, isn't it? Really.
You've got to work out how to.
You've got to do it, and sometimes ducking down a bit and not pay them and pull. You've always got to pay your rent. You've always got to pay your wages. You've got to pay the VAT, pay the tax.
Yeah.
Some tax you can sort of push out a little bit if you have to, but You can't
There's
mess
only
the VAT
VAT
about.
you couldn't get away with, wasn't it?
VAT, you can't get away with VAT. They don't like you not paying them, so you've got to pay them people.
I was like VAT when I was at mine because I saved it in the bank for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then
That's a bit that I don't like that.
Oh, it's a rip, yeah.
It's a lot of money in it. But the problem with ours VAT for us is because you're paying it on the margin, so people don't realise that you pay on used bikes, you pay on the margin.
Yeah.
So if you buy a used bike for £3,000, you sell it for £4,000, and you make £1,000 on it. Immediately, £200 of that £1,000, 20% has gone to VAT now.
Yeah.
So that's eroding your margin, isn't it? Which,
Yeah.
so when it goes up over the years from 15 to 20 to 11 to 15 to 20,
Yeah.
then that's taking your margin,
Money,
which is, and anybody who's in business will know that margin is key.
Helps, you can claim some of it back though, can't you? So
on new stuff you can claim back, on property improvements, things like that, you can claim
Oh, has
back.
it changed? I used to be able to.
So you can claim, you claim on, you can, these chairs will be plus VAT, and you can claim VAT back, can't you? But it grates a little bit. You look at the amount of money that you think, fuck, it's a lot of money. Bikes would be cheap, wouldn't they? If they were 20% cheaper, everything would be, wouldn't it?
Well, I say, how do they actually say it's value added? It's value. Was it value when it's robbery added tax?
But we have it to pay, and that's it. We're not going to get away with that way. So you have it to do, and also, it's that VAT's just one of those things, isn't it? You just have to.
Yeah, it's part
of being a business, isn't it? It's part of business.
You've just got to work with that. That's it.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's move on now. So now you become a Triumph dealer.
That was.
That was your first?
No, we were with Piaggio before Triumph. So we were a sub dealer to Vin Cunningham in Darwin, who was a Suzuki. Then he became Piaggio dealer. And we kind of got the timing just right, because it is all about timing. So probably we'd had the boom of MZ had gone up. It was done really well then. Then of course, the worst thing they ever did was bring the building wall down. In my opinion, it was left it up. It was great while that was up. And then anyway, then the Berlin Wall came down, and then sales petered off over a period of time till get to sort of the mid-90s, and by 95 we're sort of thinking this is a bit naffy. But on the back of that, we sort of built quite a used bike business, so we've got quite a lot of used bikes about us.
Yeah.
A few imports. We did a few imports from the continent, not many, but we did do a few. Not masses of them, but we did do a few. And then we did. We started. What's the 97? I think it was. We first did the Piaggio, and we were a sub dealer, like I said, to Vin and Ian Cunningham. And that worked. It just kind of got it just right, really, because there were very slow sales to start with, but they very quickly sort of ramped up.
Scooter market is massive.
It just went like that early 2000s, and Piaggio did really, really well, and quickly we were selling a lot of them. You know what I mean? It was like become really quite lucrative. And the rep who was for Piaggio, I was like, we probably could do with a shop in the centre of Blackburn, Accrington. We would probably do like a town centre shop here for selling these, because we're selling to ordinary people rather than bikers, if you will.
Yeah.
And then he said, my dealer in Manchester's just given up. So his owner's they're retiring. So we want to do it in Manchester. He goes, why do it in Manchester? And I was like, Manchester's a long way and all this. And I thought about it, and I thought, actually, I'll give that a crack. So we started looking for a building, to do it in. And I found the place up the road here, 294 Burnie Road, and I bought that. It was it was quite a weird experience buying it. It was quite run down. There'd been a travel agents, and a Jewish guy had it. I'll never forget one night we went looking at this building with my wife. I got married by then, so I went looking with her at it. And Louise has always been quite, she's quite driven. She's quite. Yeah, I thought it might be. Yeah. Anyway, but she was there, and anyway, it was like trying to sell this building. It was knackered. This building, the roof was falling in, and the bloody floor was knackered. And he sat on this chair, and it fell backwards. This chair, this guy, and he's like right back in it, and he couldn't get out of it, and we just started laughing. And we shouldn't have done really. Anyway, we ended up buying this building, and we did it up, and we put a new roof on it, and we put a new floor in it, and totally transformed it. And then scooter sales just went ballistic from there. It was like we were really doing some big numbers from there, and it was we were sort of servicing that from Accrington. And we did a lot of scooters from there. It was great, and then because like all these things, it sort of was a boom, and that was just doing well, but starting to tail off a little bit, maybe just at the start to tail off, but probably not too much. And the Triumph thing came in 2003, probably. We were talking to Honda actually at Accrington, but they were using me, I think, to beat the incumbent dealer up at the time,
right.
Which was Clark's, and I think they were using me to sort of just
playing one off the other.
But yeah, there's a bit of that going on. You've got to be careful with all that. Yeah. So that was that didn't happen, or it was on the cusp of happening, and then there was a company called Filed Superbikes had Triumph, and I got wind from one of the reps that they'd had it took off them. So I rang Bruno Tagliaferri in 2004. And I said, and I'd met him at the bike show. I've made myself known on the Triumph stand because I always thought that was you got to put yourself about there.
It's networking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's networking. Yeah. Put myself on spoke to him a few times on the Triumph stand. Said, "Hi Bruno," I said, "It's Philip Youles, you might remember." "Oh yeah, I remember you." He always remember people. Very very good memory. Very good memory. So I remember you. Yeah. I said, I just thought you might be interested in speaking to me because I've heard that you're losing your current dealer, and I think we'd be a superb replacement type of thing, And he said, "I'll be there tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. So I said to him, "He's coming tomorrow." He's coming. She said, "But we need some coffee. We need some nice coffee, and we need some really nice chocolate biscuits." So 10 o'clock, bang, he walks through the door, I prepared a bit of stuff for him. So I had like a bit of a resume of what we've done and where we're at business wise.
Business plans as you know in there.
Yeah, but it was just like on a flip chart really, but it was just basic stuff and more about the people that we had around us and where we were going and what we wanted to do. And it was,
by this time, how many people are you employing?
Well, we probably got about 7 or 8 probably by this time. Yeah, and we'd actually stopped. We'd actually given up braking bikes by this time.
Right.
The sort of onset of the internet made that harder, and not as. I think the product became cheaper as well because like when we first started doing it, braking bikes, YB14LA 2 batteries, $29.95.
Yeah.
Well, they're not. I don't know what they are today, but they're probably $39.95 today if you look round. So they're not dear relative to what they were then. So in those days, in the early days, people would buy second-hand batteries. You wouldn't dream of buying a second-hand battery today, would you? You just wouldn't do it, would you? You just wouldn't even think of it.
People throw away good batteries now, don't they?
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's one of those. So he came. He was up and he was keen, and he was I'm really keen, what have you. But then it went on, these discussions went on, and other people came. So there was a guy called Mark Burrows. I like Mark, he was really good. He was he worked for Mitsubishi. There's quite a bit of a Mitsubishi connection through the business, but he worked for Mitsubishi, and he came, looked, and met me. Thought he was quite down the line. He went, love your business, love your people. Can't work here. This premises in Accrington, which was basically a nil with it. By this stage, I put an extension on, which was like a bit of a showroom bit. He said, "Can't work here. This isn't Triumph." And he wasn't. To be fair, he was right.
Yeah.
At the time, I tried to angle it and said, we could do this and we could do that, but in my heart, I knew it wasn't right.
Yeah.
So he said, "Want to be with you, but you have to find some new premises." And then that set the search for them for looking for new premises. And that's hard work. That's because you kind of finish work and then you sort of start again. And it's like that knowing people. And it's if somebody knows you want to buy something, then they want to, they
want to sell it.
They want to make some money.
Yeah.
So you're trying to sort of buy it without not being too keen. And then if they think you've got a train franchise coming in, I think that's a lie. In their head, that's a license to print money.
Yeah.
You'll pay a fortune for it, which
exactly.
people do. So it's a difficult thing to gauge that. And I found this building in Blackburn, which is Pendle Street, where we are now, which had been a catering centre, and then it was owned by it was only up for lease, I think, originally, and it was Caledonia Fiat had it. And they were doing used cars, like a used car trading thing from it, really. And then Anyway, I got in touch with the landlord through a friend of mine, and he said, yeah, I'd sell it, yeah. Anyway, we eventually agreed a figure, but it ended up where the Caledonia Fiat were putting some money in to get out of the lease because they had 3 years left to run on the lease. And I think the lease was 35,000 a year, so it saved them some money on the lease.
Yeah.
We were putting a figure in, Caledonia put in a figure in, and I was absolutely on the limit of what I could put in. I couldn't put any more because I got to start fitting it out after that as well.
Yeah.
So we'd remortgaged the house, done, remortgaged the building that I'd bought up here and done quite well with. Just like everything was just right, absolutely right on the edge, and then Triumph I couldn't borrow the money for the building without having the Triumph franchise. Triumph wouldn't give us the franchise without us having the building. The landlord wouldn't release the lease without us buying the building. The tenant wouldn't pay the money to buy the building without release. So the whole thing was like
you did chain free, didn't you?
It's like stuck. It was like proper stuck. And so we ended up with Steve Moore, who he works for Kawasaki now, but he worked for Triumph at the time. We ended up with Steve Moore sat in the showroom at Pendle Street, and we ended up with the solicitor for the vendor and our solicitor and the solicitor for Caledonia. All three solicitors sat in a room. And at the point, on the count of three, they all swapped papers around pretty much because nobody trusted anybody to. Because nobody trusts anybody, do they? It's ridiculous, isn't it? You know what I mean? And nobody trusted anybody to actually do it. Because Anyway, so and then as the exchange through, I signed the Triumph agreement with Steve Moore, so we got the tracks, so the funding and everything. It just all went through and well.
So did Triumph put anything in to help you fit out?
Oh no. There was. No, they don't. Not at that stage. They don't contribute for that. That's like you're on. You've got a design. You've got a company that fit it out, or that supply the stuff. I had a builder guy that was the guy called Brian, who's done quite a bit for us over the years. He was running the shop fitting of it, and I mean, you couldn't write it, could you? First day, so we bought it. I'm like, right, we need to rip this wall out, we need to rip this out, we need to do this, do that. We've got all these plans of what we're going to do. And his lad, who was his son, who was self-employed, luckily, fell off a ladder and broke his leg first day on the, first day on the job. So she's like, oh my God, can this get any worse? You know what I mean? It's like that, innit? So, it just did. And I can remember I was going into Blackburn before work, and I was doing work on the building, going to Accrington, doing a day's work at Accrington, and going back to Blackburn. Louise had arrived at Blackburn with the kids, and she bought the kids like some coats from charity shops so that they could just stay because the building was freezing. But then they could get mucky. It didn't matter, they were just like really cheap sort of coats that she bought them that they could just roam around. They had these like building site coats. And they were like, you can play on that side, you haven't got to go over there, and you can do this and you can do that. So it was all quite, it's quite, so we had tea there and then carried on working there till 10, 11 o'clock at night, back home, bed, up again, for just
constant
to
get it going.
Just to get it all right.
So we'll get to Louise now.
There you go.
So when she started with you, was it 1985 she started?
No, she was, we got married in 97, so I must have met about 95. We only took a couple of years before we got married, and she didn't work for us initially. She worked for Lancashire County Council.
Yeah, in the accounts.
Yeah, she was on pensions, the council pensions, so she's 80.
So she's a clever cookie then.
She's clever, yeah. She should be. She's a lot smarter than being with me. Really, she should have a lot more sense. She had a lot more sense.
I was going to say that. So she obviously watches your pay well, doesn't she?
She watches everything. I can't. I can't move.
How did you get her back? Didn't she have a cake stand or something? A cake van?
She had a cake van.
So
she
used to all the cakes.
She used to. Yeah, she used to work. Well, she was quite good at it because as girlfriends go, she worked on a Saturday. And so, there was no hassle with me working Saturdays, because I always work Saturdays, and even now I still work.
I know.
Saturdays, I like working Saturday. It's good. It's just like just feel like you're doing something.
You like people, though. You like meeting people.
Yeah, that's all about
it.
it. Yeah, that is about it.
Yeah.
That is the main thing,
Yeah.
and I like what we do. I just love it. So, yeah. So she works Saturdays, so that kind of worked. And we get on. I mean, she's best friend. We're brilliant. You know, it's good. I really like it. You know, some guys diss the wives, don't they? And I'd never diss mine because she's been brilliant. You know, she's
it's like
done everything. You know, that she's really been a team player, and we've built it between us. She's as much part of it as I am. You know, I mean, she's quite not. I'm probably more the face of it, but she's had as much drive and as much input to it as I have, which is incredible. Really.
It's that support what you always need, don't you? You say behind every strong man is a stronger woman. That's what they generally say.
Yeah, and I think it's great, really. So, yeah, so that was that. Yeah.
So you started your Triumph dealership.
So 2004, first Triumph is Blackburn, yeah.
So how many people are in there? How many new people did you get?
We moved quite a few across. There was a girl who wouldn't come across with us. She lived around the corner and walked to work. I get it, you know, so she didn't want to come. Pretty much everybody moved from Accrington to Blackburn. Yeah, and we took a couple more. I can't remember exactly how many we took on, but we took a couple more. I think these mainly we ended about 12 people, I think, at that stage.
And now the computer age is really...
Well, we've always been into that. We've been quite hot on that from early on.
Right.
My mum sort of brought that into business very early, because she did my accounts initially when I first started.
On an old Amstrad?
I wasn't an Amstrad, but she was into computers, and I still was. She's still alive. But she's unfortunately she's very ill at the moment. She's got dementia, which is horrible, but it's a foul disease. That's awful. Yeah. But you know, she was quite. When I look back, I didn't probably realise it at the time, but you know, for her age group, she was quite advanced with computers.
Yeah.
And she used to teach older people how to use computers and that sort of thing. So she got us into that. So we're quite good with that. So we're quite.
Did she go to the City Learning Centres and do that?
She did it in Burnley, yeah. There was like a learning centre, I think, teaching people how to, you know, like. It's funny, the chronic dementia she's got, and she doesn't really know I'm her. And the other day, a few months ago, she you know, one thing she said was right click. So we're still there, isn't it? So we're still there, yeah.
Right. So we're going to go on now. So you've got your Triumph dealership. You now got Honda. Now.
Well, that's like a kind of a big leap from Triumph to this, because that was 2004, so 20 years. We're skipping a bit out here.
Alright, come on then, let's fill in that bit.
So, well, we set off with, so Triumph that was quite a challenge at first. That was a big, so to move, take on a new property, take on a new franchise, you know, we kept Piaggio, we stored that down one side of it, and we expanded the Piaggio business in Manchester, and we got a shop down 10 Euro centre down there, and we were doing quite well with that. That was still steady with scooters. That was still a good business. But then the Triumph, I mean, we hit Triumph again. It's timing, isn't it? Timing was just perfect. You know, they'd had the fire. They were just recovering from that. They had sort of made the decision to drop 4-cylinder bikes, although we did sell Daytona 650s at first and Speed 400s. But they'd made the decision not to carry on with those, and Bonneville was in full swing. Rocket was new to the market. The first 2004 was the first Rocket, so we had the first few of those. The new 1050 Speed triple was there. That was, it was just amazing timing, and that took that did really well. And then Triumph kept saying, well, "Why don't you do Manchester as well?" And we said, "Well, you've got Robinson's at Rochdale, and you've got Motorcycle Centre, Stockport. So why would we want to do Manchester? Like, we wedged in between these two deals, and we'd never make it work." And then Motorcycle Stockport packed up, they retired, and then Robinson's went into administration. Yeah. So all within probably about 12-18 month period. So they said, like, yeah, now we'd be interested in doing it, sort of thing. You know, it makes more sense now.
Yeah.
And they were very good. I mean, they were very sensible people. Again, by this stage, we've got another dealer development guy called Steve Cooper, who so Mark Burrows had left. Steve Cooper was doing it, and he was very. I thought he was very bright. I liked him a lot. He used to like these people, and I did. And he I was very sensible with him. I said, look, we'll put it upstairs where we are now, which we had the ability to do. I said, but if you find somebody else for it and they've got the right building, be no hard feelings, just crack on with it. But we'll put a workshop. We rented a workshop up the road at Appian Way. I said, I'll rent a workshop, we'll put a mechanic in it, we'll look after the existing customers that you've got in the area, and we'll look for premises. I said, but I'm not, I don't want to move a million miles from where we are. I'll be straight with you. I want to be somewhere around here because we've built up a business around here. It's a big job moving it to the other side of Manchester and starting all again. I want to be somewhere near where we are. Yeah. I said, but if you find somebody else, just let me know and talk to me. I said, but if you do, then there'll be no hard feelings. You just put them on. If they can do it better than me or whatever, it's fine. That's not a problem. We'll move that and we'll just do it that way. Yeah. Obviously, clearly, I was looking quite keenly behind the scenes. And there was a guy, this plot was up here and there had been a car park for a bit and there was a bit of development work going on, and I got in touch with the guy who owned it, Ravi, and we did a deal, basically. We did a deal to, he was going to build a shell, we were going to fit it out, we were going to rent the shell off him, with an option to purchase, which we had, and which we took in the end, but then that was, so that was in 2011, so then that led us to moving up here to Triumph, basically.
Right. So that's where you Triumph.
So that's where the Triumph, so we ended up with Triumph in Manchester, the Piaggio, and we ended up with Triumph in Blackburn. So that was then. So then that was, we fit that out initially with the Triumph Blue then that they had. It was like a Triumph Blue corporate identity. And then, so Triumph, they then brought out the Triumph World Black, which is like the new sort of corporate identity, which is a few years old now, but it was then new. And we decided that we would build an extension on the back of Blackburn, because Blackburn was tight. Even though the workshop was really tight, and the trouble was when you put it too tight, it damaged things, you don't want that. And it's nothing worse, but inevitably in this job you're going to mark something at some time.
We'll go back to the smell of the workshops, your first workshops, because I always remember as a kid I used to always go to, you probably remember a company called BJ West.
On Deansgate.
Brian Foster used to own it. I used to go in there. I used to work at school.
David Hempstead.
Yeah. And also Suzuki, I think, one of the main ones. But I used to go in there and Brian used to go, "Were you wagging skill? Which bike are you sitting on today?" Lovely guy, a little garage in the back. Yeah. Andy Allen, who was a mechanic there.
Right.
And just when you went in, that smell.
Yeah.
It's just old oil, isn't it? It's health and safety. You go to your workshop now. The worlds apart, aren't they?
But you don't notice it when you're in there all day, of course, don't forget.
Yeah.
You only notice it when you're coming from the outside, because people come in to our place up here, oh, that smells lovely, and you're like, well, I don't notice it. I probably go home smelling a motorbike, but I don't notice it because you're with it all the time, aren't you? But I think they do. I mean, old oil, when it's been in a bike for ages, it's horrible smell, and it's awful. And you don't get
old petrol.
It's awful, isn't it? It's like, so you don't get as much of that beer with them modern stuff as you did.
It's just nostalgia, really. It's just nostalgia.
Yeah.
So let's go to Honda now.
You're dying to get on to Honda, aren't you?
Wonder why?
You like Honda, don't
you? The thing is, it's not about me, but my life has been a lot of Hondas, but a lot of Yamahas.
Yes.
I have had tramps, the old CT600 tramp.
Yeah.
I loved the back wheel on it. It had a valve issue on it. He used to go on the left-hand bend and he used to do something weird. But I don't know why. It's just you get familiarised with certain bikes. Honda are just, I think they're just bulletproof. That's part of it. Yeah. But go on, let's get.
Well, so it kind of all ties in, because what happened was, so we built this extension of Blackburn, and we improved the size of that and the workshop and everything. And then so that's 2016. So then we've obviously got to do the same here. So we're going to go to World Black here. So this building was always like, I'd never really been in it, to be honest with you. It was next door, but I knew there was a little old guy on it, and it was like a pottery warehouse. So I didn't, and I got, again, you sort of kick your ear to the ground, and I'd heard that he was packing up. So I think his brother or somebody was a customer, and he said to one of the sales guys, "Oh, he's packing up this." So I came round and I went, like we're gonna have to do our building up next door, and I'm just kind of thinking about renting a bit of room off you, because be easier to kind of operate temporarily from here. And I got talking to him, and he was a nice guy, really, really nice guy. And I hope he's still alright, because I could tell he was getting a bit ill actually towards the end of us dealing with him. But I don't know whether he is or isn't, but he was a really nice guy. I got on with him well as well. It's all about people. If you get on with people,
Yeah, that's it.
You can deal with them, can't you? And he was straight, bit of a character man, but you know, but he was as straight as I think he'd become. But he was, and I got to talk to him. I could tell that. I said, well, I'll buy it, like, you know, the building if it's, and I'd got wind that we'd been speaking to Honda at this stage. Now I've been here before with Honda, so I was like, and Hunt's work, the deals.
I was just going to say that.
With the deal. I initially thought they're just playing me off. And then I kind of realised actually, no, they're serious about this. At first, I just thought they just wanted to.
Because you wanted Hunts to move, didn't they?
I just thought they're just trying to push John around it, and I don't really like that. And then actually, I just fobbed them along for a bit, if I'm absolutely honest with you. But then I realised, I thought, no, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity. This is genuine. This.
Yeah.
And because the conversations get more and more serious, don't they?
Yeah.
So then I was talking to him, so we agreed again to rent this off him with an option to purchase. It's quite a good way of doing it. Right? You can get a feel for it, but you're not absolutely committed. Quite like that. So and of course, when somebody's doing that as a landlord or a seller, they always feel like they're getting a better deal because they feel like they get a couple of years rent and the purchase rent. So it kind of works very well, really. So we agreed a deal on that. So we took over the lease on this, and then we moved. We just sort of bodged it up, if I'm honest. We just painted the floor red, painted the walls white, repaired the fluorescents that were knackered. You know, just made it functional.
Yeah.
And we moved everything out of there into here while we did that up. So we did that up, and then put that into triangle up black.
Sure.
And then we moved everything back in there, and then we started doing this up for Honda. Because we were doing all the paperwork, and you know, they were doing the checks on us, I suppose, and we were doing the checks on them, and just deciding where we were going to be.
They seem to be. It's like is it forced under a certain remit the way they've got to be fitted out now?
Oh, exactly. This is done. Yeah. This is what they call a dream dealer. So this is like the top level of dealership that they do, and they haven't done. I think one or two before we did. They've done two before we did this one. So that's always a complication, because particularly with somebody like Honda, where you deal with something which is a European dictatum, if you will. Yeah. So, you know, not everything it's not all here on site, and they've never done a couple before, and like nobody quite knows how to do it, and how do these racks fit together, and you know, all that sort of thing. Just a complication, like what lights are available, what's doable, what's not doable. So we got through all that, we did all that, which was quite stressful as well. It's quite, because I mean, when we moved in this building, it was full of rats. It was just infested with rats. It was horrible. The office, we pulled some offices down.
The smell of them.
Oh, so and we pulled it, you dropped the ceilings, and there was just rat droppings everywhere. There was about, you know.
Yeah. They get you drunk in, they get
horrible.
everywhere.
Horrible. We have had them in since, but we've got rid of them. When we put some of the air conditioning pipes in, there was a bit of a hole, they were getting in there. And we got rid of them. We haven't had them since. That's since we've done it. We haven't had any. We bait them around the building. You have to, you know, Union City Centre. They'll be everywhere.
They're within 6 feet of everywhere.
Yeah. So you've got to be on that.
Yeah.
I mean, the building stunk because of that. When we started pulling it to bits, it was awful. And there wasn't these windows in the side. I remember before, it was just corrugated iron on that side. So we put windows in and redid the mezzanine, put a lift in. I mean, it's quite a.
I know, but
it's quite a,
your outlet, I mean, it's amazing. Like, even for the vehicles that are upstairs, you've got a dedicated lift in all your showrooms, haven't you?
We've got 3 of those, and they are expensive. And they're not cheap to run, really, because there's some maintenance contracts and one thing with them. But on the other hand, they sort of open up, and anybody can use them. You know, you go in dealerships and they've got like a forklift, and I've done all that. I've had like a forklift with a stillage on and shoved it up, and you know, rockets balancing on edge of forklift, and thinking this is all going to go very wrong. This will be on YouTube, but it'll be better than your video, I tell you. But get more hits. But but it's not really. You know, it's, you can't ask other people to do it. You end up having to do it yourself.
Yeah.
So I think it's worthwhile, and we've done it, and it's worked. And it does all the space.
They're seamless, you can't really see them either, they don't look, you know, they're not.
No, they're sort of there, and
Yeah.
tell you what though, if they do go wrong, it's a nightmare.
We've got Lexi now, so.
Yeah, so the minute they go wrong, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
But because everything's up, you can guarantee it'll be up there, can't you? What
Or
you want's
halfway.
up there, you know. But to be fair, Touchwood, they've been pretty good. Yeah, so it's quite a big. I mean, it's a good service. I think it's nice, it's airy, it feels right. I like it, it's quite bright. I like, you know, Honda will say to you, well, does the Dream, or other dealers might ask you, does the Dream sell you more bikes? You know, does it sell more bikes having it like this? I don't know whether it actually sells you more bikes having it set up
Your
right.
customers get.
But I think it does give you that presence that you're serious about the job, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It gives you that confidence as a customer to think that. I mean, people think, I don't know, it's weird, isn't it? Because people sort of think you're owned by Honda sometimes. You know, some people don't understand the franchise model, that it's a franchise and you're adhering to a contract, but it is actually your business. You know, it's your Youles Motorcycles is a legal entity on its own, and it's a separate limited company. And in fact, we're one limited company, but some run them as separate shops as
Subsidiaries,
yeah. So sometimes do that. We just got as one company.
So let's go on to who in the industry has inspired you? Who would you say? Is there anyone in the industry, anyone that you've worked with, anyone that you would say that guy is? I like him. He's clever. He knows what he's talking about. I would listen to him.
Well, as for manufacturers, Bruno Tagliaferri, definitely. He definitely really clever. I think John Bour's a very inspirational man, isn't he?
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've met him once, very briefly. I've met Nick a few times, his son, and he's equally inspirational, equally clever, but very quiet, nice, very considered guy, and clearly very, and I think that's a hard gig as well, because you know his dad started the business and he's clearly taking it in a good, the right direction, and seems to have a handle on it. And it's very difficult to know exactly, isn't it? But in my opinion, doing a lot of things very right, and that's a hard gig. But I think inspirational to come into the industry in the early 80s when manufacturing was on its backside, and to sort of say, right, we're going to start making motorbikes. We're going to compete with the Japanese, and we're going to compete with them at a level. That's some man.
I mean, it did. I mean, for me, like in terms of like the trophy when that first come out, I rode way out of my price range. But I used to see that when I used to set out my own thing.
Some very inspirational people. There's a guy called Steve Pauling, unfortunately died too young. He was cancer got him. He was a sales trainer who'd done the job. He worked for Eddie's Two Wheel when he left school, and I rated him very highly. I thought a lot of what he said was sensible. In the actual job itself, doing the job, I think Fowler's at Bristol's a very good business. I think that's Stephanie Fowler runs that, and it's a family business, 3 1/3. Lee at Bridge down at Exeter, 3rd generation now.
Yeah.
You know, that's Lee does a really good job there.
Yeah.
Gareth over at Five Ways in Hull, very bright, good business. Yeah. I always pick ones a bit far away. I'm not going to pick anyway too near.
That's the next.
I think to be fair, when I speak to other dealers, the majority of them, the vast majority of them, are just genuine good guys that are into motorbikes. Yeah. And they get probably quite a bad press really, but they're not. Maybe watching this will go, you're bound to say that, aren't they? I get that, but they don't sort of wake up in the morning thinking, how can I rip people off? For definite.
I don't think any do.
Anybody does. They just want to make it. No, they don't. And they've got genuinely, to have survived as long as they have, something they've genuinely cared for the customers and they genuinely want to get it right. You know, I think everybody makes a bit of a mistake now, admittedly, but if you want to get it right, you will, won't you?
I always think it's patience. If you've got, I mean, like my few bikes that I bought from Wigan, it used to be Wigan Honda, then they moved to Blackpool, that was Blackpool Honda. And I had a couple of issues with my bike, but it was never like, oh, back Kester. I would, you know, do it and give them breathing time and breathing space. And that, a lot of people don't give that. They want now. They don't realise what's. But
you sometimes get
the industry, don't you?
You sometimes get a reflection of how you treat people, don't you? If you treat people right, they'll treat you back right. And sometimes you look at it.
I look at it in school because I work in a school, so I see teachers shouting at kids and then kids shouting back, and that's the exact episode of what was on. You go scream back, someone else scream back at you.
Yeah, because
it's just natural. That's natural.
Yeah.
So the next thing, Chinese bikes are going to hit us hard. They're coming in. It's just like the Japanese bikes in the 50s and 60s. They come in, they weren't liked. No one thought they'd buy them. They start the footprint and they built up, and that's what they did. They've got better and better and better. So what Jerkin's going to do? What's going to be the hardest bit? Because there's failing dealerships as well, and it's like when I say now about failing dealerships, like PJ West is one that's gone. Whether that went because Brian retired and no one's, well, he had children who won it, but whether it failed. City Motorcycles, which was just around the corner from here, gone. Another place I bought fundraise from. Who else was it?
Well, the list ends,
But they were good, solid dealerships that have been there for a long time and they went. So do you think government legislation is affecting you quite a lot now, or do you tend to be able to avoid that?
Well, we're at a turning point here with this sort of zero emissions thing. And you know, there's nobody really knows what's going to happen with this. At the minute, there isn't even a clean defined path for it. There's a Z mandate on cars, but I mean, I did the MCIA conference on Tuesday this week, and it feels to me like we're just giving the business away to China. It just feels like we're sort of, you know, and this zero emissions at the tailpipe is the worry, because I mean, I'm not a really big believer in. I'm a bit sceptical, but I am like, I do believe in looking after the planet. I do think I don't like, you know, I like my kids to switch the bedroom lights off when they, you know what I mean? But they don't, do they? You know what I mean? But you know, it's really, you sort of say, well, that's got to be zero emissions at the tailpipe, but it's pretty pointless if you're making electricity in a coal-fired power station, isn't it? Or, you know, it's gas-fired, so. Sorry?
Don't you think motorcycles will be dull when they come to that?
I don't know, I'm not so sure. I've ridden an electric bike and quite fun sometimes, so.
You've never ridden one yet,
so yeah, I was quite impressed really. I mean, I've ridden a Zero and I've ridden a few electric scooters, and the plane, I mean, loads of torque because you've got maximum torque at. So I don't think the fun. I don't think the fun is the problem. I mean, I'm not that head up that I have to have. You know, I mean, I love the two-stroke with microns on it. Of course I do. You know, okay, you make KH400 with three, you know, LC with two bubbling away. Brilliant, yeah, of course I do. But you can have much fun as an experience on an electric bike. You can, but it's the range anxiety. Those are the things that are the problem, and the cost, of course. It's the cost as well, because it's very cheap to make an IC engine. We know how to do it. We've been perfecting it for years. So, you know, we seem to be blindly going down this path of it being zero emissions at the tailpipe. And there's synthetic fuels, there's other alternatives that are perfectly usable, and almost we're not really letting industry or think about the best solutions. We're giving them this one solution that has to be. This is how it seems to me, and I might be wrong, but is that a Chinese? Are we just handing the businesses? Are we just handing the whole automotive sector to China on the back of that? It feels a bit like we are, and that's sort of bloody stupid in my opinion to do that. It's just nuts. Triumph can't make Steve Sargent, Chief Operator, Development Officer at Triumph, on Tuesday said that they can't make a viable alternative for speed triple with the range
that they
and
require.
that they want, and the weight and everything to fit.
Yeah.
Technology just isn't there.
Yeah.
So it just isn't there. You know what I mean? So you're trying to make something that not work, aren't you? Now, I have an electric push bike. It's brilliant. I've ridden electric scooters, and for short journeys, they're brilliant. But you know, it's horses for courses, isn't it? And we're not. I don't think we're there with that yet. I think we're just trying to. And that is a worry. You know, is that why BJ West went out of business? I very much doubt it. You know, that's just there's going to be an attrition of dealers. You know, so it's not going to like any business, like fish and chip shops. They don't, or you know, some close, some you know,
depending on the environment at the time.
Yeah, the environment at the time, the people, the incentives for doing it, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't seem to. Just doesn't seem
Unfortunately, business is dynamic, aren't they?
Everything has to move. Yeah.
We have to move.
Yeah, we can't stay. We look how we've changed over the last 4 years. A massive change. Will we carry on as we are? Probably not as we are. We'll probably change at some point. I don't know what the change is going to be, but at some point we'll have to change.
Yeah. Well, there's another group that I bought from, which is the GB group, which are big Chinese importers that go into Multi Million Motorcycles, and it's like, as I've done my YouTube channel now here, a mix of people going, oh, right, Chinese, they're rubbish, they're not this, they're not that. But then I see the side to that group. The big BMW dealer went in Stoke on. Is it Stoke on Trent? They've now put Vogue in there, and all the stuff that were there, they've employed them.
Yeah, and that's good.
And that's the thing with motorcycle industry and car industry. You know, you can call something, but it's also giving life to people in the country, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a huge industry. We employ a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, it's £7 billion industry, motorbikes in the UK. It's big thing. And we don't get valued for that very often. We don't get recognition for that. So yeah, it's a big thing. And the good jobs as well. That's the thing that you know they're not like
well trained.
Well trained. We're working at people all the time. Life skills, dealing with people. Selling motorbikes is a skill, you know. You can talk to people and you can deal with it, and it isn't easy as well. I have to have money. I had to sell a bike today, and it was dealing with a customer. It boxed my head, the finance deal on it. It was like, you know, there's some money coming from Honda. There's a negative equity. I haven't done it for a few weeks. I'm a bit rusty, and you know, it's complex. It's complex. It's not easy. You know, not easy at all. But and they're quite highly skilled, well paid, you're not working outside in the cold. They're good jobs.
Yeah, that's what I say. I mean, it's like me when I come in here. I'm not being funny. I think the majority when people come in, the atmosphere that you've got. I've been to your Blackburn showroom. I've only been into it once, but if you look at the video, the people in it, and that for me is what sells a bike. Is the people that are in it. You go in it and the way they treat you.
Well, it's when it goes wrong as well, isn't it? That's the key. But if something goes wrong, it's how you sort it, and that's that. I mean, to be honest with you, you have a bike, it's supposed to be a bike, and it goes wrong, and you do everything right. It's much easier to sell on the second bike because you've sort of trusted them, and you get that a lot. Yeah. But and with used bikes, there's plenty of room for error because you know people do sometimes part exchange them because there's something wrong with them. You've got to find that. You've got to be mindful of that.
And I'm not being funny. That's the side that people don't see. If I sell a bike as a private person and it's dodgy, it's very unlikely that person who's bought that bike is going to get that money back unless they're brave enough to go through small claims and prove it. Where you've got legislation against you straight away from the minute you sell that bike.
Definitely. It's just not worth the argument. Just get it sorted.
So here's the next thing for you, right? You've got the Birchwood biker. You got social media. Yeah. It's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
From Auto. I mean, I remember Auto Trader when it started, owned by the Manchester. It was bought by the Manchester Evening News. It was about 8 pages thick.
That's right. Yeah.
So you didn't have. You had a local guide, then you had a national guide, which cost fortunes. Do you think the likes of YouTubers like me, or I mean, I'm tiny, but they actually help your business?
Definitely. I think anything. That's why I agreed to do this, and obviously because he's sat here, and probably I don't mind doing it. It's quite nice to have a chat. It's dead easy. I thought it was something for you as well because you've done a little bit for us, so I thought it'd be nice for you as well. And I'm probably not as good at this sort of thing as I should be. Like social media, time. To be fair, time's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you sat here, you know, you've got to think about what, you know. I suppose I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to put this really in the right way, really, isn't it? But you end up being it's people always free to do a video, well, it isn't, because you've got to give some time up, haven't you? And then you've got to edit this when we've finished it. You'll spend quite a bit of time messing with it, and then you've got to publish it and do whatever with it. So yeah, there's nothing free, and it's quite. Whereas at one time you could just put half a page in wherever, a few magazines, and it cost you a lot of money, but it was quite quickly done, wasn't it? And people still mention to me, we used to have an advert, spare part surgery, and doing braking bites, and people still remember that advert now and stay and mention it occasionally. Somebody will say, I haven't used that advert. You know, you think, that's like years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that advert's obviously still stuck in the mind, isn't it? And the trouble is, you just don't know what. You know, we can go to Ray Bike Night, so which we do sometimes. We go to Ray Bike Night, or we go to the Veterans Garage. I've done that a few times in Manchester. Go there, and then 2 years later, somebody will ask you at the Veterans Garage, and you're like, yeah, how does that work? You know what I mean? You can't quantify that, can you? It's really difficult to quantify.
Yeah, that's it. It's a community though, biking, isn't it? That's what it is.
But any sort of advertising, marketing is like that, isn't it? So some of it's marketing, some of it's advertising, isn't it? Auto Trader's advertising, this is marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm probably not that good at marketing sometimes, but we try.
Giving back, you give back quite a bit, and you probably don't realise it. Simple thing, someone sat right by the side of your right ear there. People don't see it. When I come into a showroom, that's a vending machine. If I went to a cafe, that'd be 3 quid, 4 quid for a coffee. Yeah.
I've always thought coffee should be free, really, in a bike shop. And then we use it as it's a bit of a hook, I suppose, isn't it, to get people in and just have a coffee. But I like coffee, by the way. I think it's just a nice thing to do, isn't it, really? And so we do that. I suppose I think the big thing that we do is the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride.
Yeah, I'm going to come on that this year. So.
Come on, Matt, it's good. It's really good. In fact, I've been out today at lunchtime. I think we've got a new venue for where we're going to finish. We have got a new venue for when we finish.
And we're up this year, you'll have the sun again.
And it's super, brilliant.
I believe you pay to give out the sun as well.
Oh yeah, so yeah. We only had a really rainy one once. Really wet once.
See, it never bothers me.
It was wet.
Wet, right?
It was horrible. When you're in a suit riding a motorbike, when it's peeing down with rain, it's horrible.
No.
No,
it's not.
It was horrible.
I can take you to one that we went into Wales, and the winds and the rain with our coloured back brake top. If you ever watch it, you'll see my coloured back brake top. And it was howling. It was one of the best days we've ever had.
Yeah, well, I don't mind in my gear. I love riding my gear, but I don't particularly like it in a pair of shoes and a shirt and a tweed jacket, if I'm honest. But I'm not bothered about that.
So the other thing you give back is your staff. Because, this is how people don't understand. You give them jobs, but you work for them as well. They don't just work for you.
You
work
do.
for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's a two-way communication. A couple of things that maybe one other thing that you think you've done for your staff that you would say is giving to them to help them.
The thing I like with staff is when we get somebody, and I don't want to play names here because it'd be obvious, but say you get somebody who comes working for you who's probably
wet behind ears.
Yeah, just kind of a bit wet. Just not really. Maybe not just have quite the deal in life that they should have had. You know, and they've maybe not done that well at school. Maybe just been a bit on the edge. Probably a bit like I was, and just an apprentice, and you see them start, and then they grow, and then they've got a couple at the minute that are like that, and that first year you're thinking, I'm not doing that, sort of thing. But you bullet them for being late, you do whatever, and you form a person out of them really, and then they become employable, and they're in there, and they become employable by anybody really, if you're honest. And they've learned a lot, and they've learned not just about how to fix a motorbike, but about life, and and I was explaining compound interest to somebody the other day about how you just need to get a little savings plan, you just need to put in some money, just explaining to them that if you earn 150 quid a week, don't spend 150 quid a week, spend 140, Spend 149, but don't spend 151.
Yeah.
Because then you're in the shit. You know, it's really simple stuff like that, and they're quite life lessons.
It's all right skill.
Which they should do. Compound interest. They do typically compound interest, but they don't They don't seem to be able to play.
No one understands how pensions work, and that's how compound interest works.
Yeah. It's dead easy. You get some pay some money in now.
Yeah.
And it'll pay dividends.
I say it to a few people at work when they go, I'm not in the pension scheme, because we, being a public sector, which is, we get a good pension scheme. And I just say, anyone that's going to give the same money that you're putting in, you put as much money as you can put in.
Because
that's what. But you do another thing, and I've been around a few dealers in my time, as you can tell, and I don't know any that pay for an advanced driving licence for the staff.
Yeah, we do that. Yeah, if you want to do it. So we've a couple of criteria around staff riding bikes. We do I probably would like to do a bit more with this, but we call a motorcycle survival course, where we get them out with an instructor just to assess them and just to give them some pointers on. And it's not about passing tests. It's not. They are advanced riding principles, but they're just bits, just tips, really, hints and tips, just to survive on the road.
Yeah.
And they have to do that. If they're going to be in our insurance, they have to do that.
Yeah.
That's period. And that came about just because we had a couple of accidents that were non-fault, but they could have been avoided probably with a little bit more experience. So that was every time somebody has an accident on our insurance, it's an amount of paperwork. I hate it. It's just like, it just goes on and then it just it's no nightmare. So try and avoid that. And then on the back of that, I said, but if you want to do your advanced test, we'll pay for the test. You have to do it on your bike and put your time in. That's all you do, and we'll do that. We did that with them. So a few do that. A few have done it as well. Done a couple of first passes as well. So it's quite good. Yeah. And it's. I think motorbikes is weird. The riding thing is weird to me because any other sport, so diving, rock climbing, there's like levels of it, and you want to get better at it, don't you?
Yeah.
Shooting, whatever it is. So with motorbikes, you've sort of, and I've had it in shop. You meet somebody in the shop and they'll say, "Well, I haven't ridden for a bit, and I'm going back to bike." Do back to bike. Oh no, I don't need that. Well, why? Go and do. Oh no, I'm fine. I can. It's like everybody assumes they can do it.
Yeah.
And.
Well, I know I've got it. Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm sort of doing it, but
do it. You need to. Yeah. Do it. Yeah. I mean, if you ride a lot, I know you do. And I've never ridden with you, but I assume you must be fairly competent because you're not crashing all the time. So if I did it, and I hadn't ridden I've ridden every day, but I hadn't really thought of doing it. And if I'm absolutely honest, I probably turned my nose up at it a little bit because I was like, I'm going to do that for.
I've done it for 40 years.
Yeah, I need that for. I thought, I'll go and do it, and I'll find out what it's about. And I did it, and it didn't reinvent my riding, but it did just put me on a couple of little bits of things. I could do that. I could just do that a bit better. I could just watch that a bit more, and it might just be one of those that makes me enjoy it a bit more. That's all.
It just makes you aware because I got it with HCV and PSV.
And there's some lovely, cracking people that do it. Brilliant. So good. All good. It's all good, isn't it?
Right. Let's move on to what we. Now this is interesting. In that few minutes I got to talk to you, I was really intrigued on because you taught me. I think it was called the LDU, the actual off-riding.
Oh yeah.
That was really interesting. So you're very competitive. You still are, aren't you?
Well, I'm not very
in our mind, I know. In our mind, we're still as good as we were when we were 20, aren't we? But we know we're not.
Yeah. I want you driving to it.
Well, I'm just going to go on from the LDU because just explain what the LDU is.
Oh, the longest day challenge.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm doing that this year. I've done it about 4 years ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
So you have to buy a bike for less than 600 quid, which doesn't give you a right lot of choice. But we actually got given a pan-European. Now you might think, flipping out. Somebody's giving you a pan-European, but honestly, this pan-European, it was horrendous. It was basically, it is a mess. It's sort of 80,000
You've got your own website, haven't you? You'le's website on YouTube.
It was on there, was it right?
Yeah.
So we got this thing, and the challenge is you do it based on a shit bike, and you've got to set off from Land's End.
Pan-European in a shit bike.
Well, that one is. That one definitely is. The pan-European's fine, but
it's the age of it. The corrosion.
It just looks the mess. It'll be. I mean, mechanically, we'll get it fine. It won't be a problem. But you set off this rubbish bike from Land's End as the sun comes up on the longest day, which is about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And you've got to arrive in John O'Groats before the sun comes up on the next day. And it's about 1,000 miles, but it's just under that, 950. But it's all A roads, no motorways.
Yeah.
And there's a ferry involved normally. 4 or 5 checkpoints at each checkpoint. And it's a really convoluted route.
It's like a gumball rally.
It is almost. It's a bit of wacky races, really, definitely. It isn't a race. It's definitely not a race. But I will be first back. No, no, it's definitely not a race. But it's obviously you're against the clock.
There's not many hours between that, is there? It's 12 hours.
24 hours. 24 hours.
It's a 24 hour.
24-hour ride. So
sunrise to sunset isn't 24 hours.
Sunrise to sun coming up.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sunrise, so you get up there before the sun comes the next day. So you've 24 hours in which to do it. So I did do it last time, and when I worked out my time and my mileage, I averaged 55 mile an hour on A roads, including the ferry ride. So
I'll give you the advanced driving license to that.
You're on it. You're on it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
Particularly, and the trick, of course, is not stopping. The trick is to have your fuel stops down to a minimum, have your check-ins down to a minimum.
Did you carry your own petrol, or did you stop at stations?
No, you stop at petrol stations, but I knew exactly. So
where
little
you
trick.
stop. Yeah.
Well, no, I worked out what. Once you get North Scotland late at night, you've only got, I think it's after Fort William and Inverness, you've got one last petrol stop, and that's just about enough to get you to John O'Groats. And then the next morning, there's a petrol station near John O'Groats that's open, so you can get some.
What was you riding on?
I did it on SV650 Suzuki.
Oh, man,
which was cracking, really good bike. I enjoyed it on that. What you need. So what I did with that was I ran it round a bit before, and I ran it till the petrol light came on, and then I ran it till it actually ran out. So I know that when the petrol light comes on,
I've got exactly what mile. Yeah.
I've got 70 miles or something like that.
Yeah.
So then I know that I need the next 50 miles to be looking for petrol. And on A roads, you can generally find petrol stations pretty good.
Yeah.
So particularly if you're coming up country,
yeah.
Once you get past Preston, it gets a bit more. But I mean, the roads just, I tell you what you realise that
Scottish roads are better.
Well, you just realise that we're so well placed here because I say Preston, but I mean, obviously Manchester's pretty north, isn't it, anyway? So, but once you get past Preston, the roads just and it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So the ride from, I mean, the other bit's good, but that bit from Preston. So the aim is to get to Preston just before lunch or just about lunchtime, and then have that and really enjoy that bit.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, UK is fantastic.
It's amazing. Yeah. So I also for cancer research, so you can go on. So there's. I'll give you a link to that. There's a link to the donate page. You can put money towards it, and they've raised quite a lot of money over the years on that ride. There's a guy called John McAvoy runs it. He does bike jobs, so he does that, and he does a bit of journalism and things as well. Really nice fella, but it is a bit of mind. It's a head thing. It's keeping your head together. That's the thing. Yeah. That's the trick.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Right. The next thing, without your stuff in this business, the business wouldn't really be.
No, it wouldn't work. Yeah, definitely.
And if you look at a Roman Empire, the saying where general managers, that's where it comes from, generals. You've got 3 generals, have you?
Yes, yeah.
Who's the best one?
Well, they all have. I'm not going to single one out.
David!
That's not right. It wouldn't be right to single one out. That wouldn't be fair.
They've all got their own credits.
They've all got their own attributes that are good, and some are better. And to be fair to them as well, they help each other a bit as well, which is good. So Dave will ring Royce if he's just not sure on something. Royce will ring Dave, and vice versa. And Gary is quite new to it as well. Will ring, and they'll all ring me, and so we're trying to work it as a team rather than I don't think it's like saying who's
it's just a teaser.
You can't.
I know.
Yeah,
it's like saying who's your favourite child.
Yeah, it is. Definitely. It's not a fair question.
I know.
Really,
but it's like your Joe. Your Joe, when I first met him and Warren worked here, I know Warren was, I don't know if he was new or not, but with the finance he come across and was sat with Warren, people come together here. So, in the old days, one salesman would deal with you and that'd be the end of it. They disappear into the back. But
it's that complicated now, though.
I know.
You sort of need so much help, don't you?
Yeah. So, and that's a good thing. And that's what I say, that's what makes it. what
you've got to be a team. You've got to pull together, and everybody's got the
it's like
strengths and
Star Trek, the
weaknesses.
Borg.
You've got to all have your strengths and weaknesses and pull on. I mean, sometimes it's interesting because like some customers will say, you know, I'm not dealing with him. I want to deal with him because I like him, and you're like, all right, you know. And sometimes it just horses for courses, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, it's like future dealerships. Do you think you go any further? Do you think you go any more? Do you think you're happy with what you got?
I'm happy with where we're at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't want any more. They're expensive things to open.
Yeah.
And we've done it gradually over a lot of years, and been able to survive when times have gone hard because of that. Really, we haven't overstretched ourselves. It's very easy to overstretch yourself. I was very much like that about doing homes, if I'm honest, because of the financial commitment. Because I think, well, I'm getting older. I'm not getting younger. I don't where do I want to be? But obviously, with Joe being in the business, that kind of made sense. I think I don't think I'm not worried about manufacturers going direct.
It's legislation.
I'm worried about legislation and how that. I don't think
stifling business.
I don't think manufacturers want to go direct, and there could be that there's more of a worry of something coming, some sort of disruptor that comes into the market just direct that isn't really what we're used to today. But I always, every time manufacturers get involved with something, they seem to, with the retail public, they're good at. I mean, Honda said this too. So to be fair, I'm not speaking out to it. They said we're good at the premises, we're good at the product, but we're not very good at the people. Again, that's the people thing, isn't it? You know, you can.
Well, I've always looked at. I look at the motorcycle industry like a speed triple. So if you look at the engine of speed triple, or a big 3-cylinder engine with three big pumping pistons that work with each other.
Yeah.
And each one of them has their own standing. One being the manufacturer.
Yeah.
One being you, the dealer, and one being the customer.
Yeah.
And if they don't all work in alignment, they all need each other.
Well, dealers are like the conduit, aren't they? And they can sort of, you know, sometimes we have to deal with the manufacturer and say, look, sometimes we have to go back to them and say, you're wrong, you need to sort this for this customer because he's the right guy.
Yeah.
And what, you know, you're saying it's wrong, but he's right, you know what I mean? And they might need that help. Or you sort of have to deal with, and sometimes the manufacturer might need a bit of a sponge to take a bit more stock than they want to, or and you can step into that role, can't you? So there's all sorts of reasons why, and the word is you're a dealer, so you're dealing with both, aren't you? You're dealing with the manufacturer, you're dealing with the general public, and you're sat in the middle, so you have to sort of deal with both, and that's so it's all there in the word, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, the one thing that really got me when I went, I've been around the Triumph place quite a few times. I walked around, I've done a few videos in there, and I never really noticed until I seen your video on your site actually, on your YouTube about a table you've got in there.
Oh yeah, that's quite cool. Yeah.
Something special for Triumph to give you that table. And it's
at the time we were the first Triumph new build out of the ground, so that was why we got it. And it was the guy I mentioned earlier called Steve Cooper. He did it, and it was I mean it was a big investment. I don't know if we go back to 2011, so we were planning it in 2009, 2010. So it was like for where they were at the time and where we were at the time, it was a big. You know, I remember being at a dealer meeting and they went, and Steve Cooper went, now for somebody with really big balls, and he put the picture of the driving thing up on the thing, and you know, because it seems easy now, but looking back at the time, it was quite something for them. So they were pleased, and it was lovely. Yeah, it was a really, it's unique. There will never be another piece of furniture come out of the Triumph factory ever.
I'll stick some pictures in about that.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
So basically, we've travelled up the path right the way up to we'll get up for me one of my favourites, up the windrows. We'll get to the top of the hard knot. So we'll look at the end now. When I first met you in the showroom, you walked across and rudely interrupted me while I was filming the NC.
Yeah, sorry.
The XTC thing, you know what I mean? I don't know. But the one thing that took off you said, I should write a book.
I don't know. Well,
And
I've
I-
only touched on this, scratched the surface today.
Exactly.
Probably I should do, but I don't think I will.
I think you should.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I hope this just starts your juices, right? Of you built this, so you can do it. Now,
Brilliant. I like that. Bloody hell, that's going back a bit, isn't it? That is it. Oh, well done. Oh, brilliant. Yeah. I've got that one on the bathroom wall at home. In front, yeah. That's for mum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some devious son gave me some of them photos.
Is he?
Joe, I
I
said
can
out
believe
loud,
it.
did I?
Okay, it's alright. Yeah. Very good, yeah. Thank you very much.
And I wish you all, well, I don't need to wish you success because I know you'll
Well,
carry on going.
we'll keep it going, but yeah, that's really interesting. That. Thank you very much. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it'd
look
be.
what he says about it as well. If you read in the logo there, what it says.
Wheels turn. Yeah,
So I think you should do that.
I might at some point. I'll be a bit off. I think there's a bit to go. Yeah, there's a few chapters to write.
Yeah, of course there is.
You know, there's a few chapters keep going. You know,
Yeah.
That's the answer to it. And
Been an
thank you.
absolute
No,
pleasure.
absolutely. Yeah. Thank
Meeting
you for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
for coming in. Yeah, I hope people find it interesting because it's
So
you
do
know
I.
it's just what I do, but
And you do well.
Well, try best.
Yeah, that's it. I'll carry on coming back here the way it goes.
Thank you.
You went to see.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Cheers.
Much appreciated. You take care again.
Right.
Right, now we've just got to go home and unstitch all this lot now.